What to expect for today, there's a variety of different EMRs on the market, but today, I'm only going to use about 30 or 40 minutes of your time. I'm not here to cover everything that our application can do, and I'm not here to overwhelm you or train you and show you all the features and functions, because that would just confuse you. However, I am going to cover the 4 things that you can go away with, most likely that you can remember when you're comparing to us to other products. One is really the 2 screens that a physician primarily would have to navigate in on an everyday basis. The ease of customization. Not all systems are going to fit, kind of, I say, in the round hole. Every doctor is different. They all use different terminologies, HPI descriptions or symptoms, etc. So I'm going to show you how we customize the application. The ease of navigation, how we navigate through our application. You'll kind of notice that we don't have to open a whole lot of different windows to get to functions within the application. Now, granted, I know doctors don't like to do a lot of clicking, and I know probably some of you are nodding your head, and I agree. But now we have to agree that we're never going to eliminate the number of clicks, but I'm going to show you some of the things that we've done in our application that reduce the number of clicks. Now I'm going to show you adaptive learning, which kind of ties back into the ease of navigation. Document something very simple today. Patient that's got some ankle pain, we don't know if it's broken or if it's sprained. And then I'll show you kind of the end result at the end and open it up for any areas that maybe I didn't cover or areas that we can discuss. Unfortunately, I won't demonstrate anything about scheduling or demographics or billing. I mean, I can answer some questions about it. I'm just not going to be able, because of the time allowed, I won't be able to show that to you, but I can talk about it towards the end if you'd like. And unfortunately, I can't answer any questions that are contract or pricing related. That's why I provided that 800 number for you. If you have some specific questions about that, those areas, you can reach out to one of our resellers or an Allscripts representative. This is my dashboard. This is what someone is going to see when they log in, whether it's me or a billing person or scheduling, that can have a different configuration based on their position within the clinic. But I'm logged in as a physician today. And you can see I have all my appointments here on the left-hand side. I can categorize them no different than what I'm doing today. Then and before we go on to the next one, I'm going to check my patient in here, Danny Dalton. You see on the right-hand side, I've got my message center. So what we're trying to do is eliminate as much paper as we possibly can, because each doctor probably has an inbox at the end of their desk that's piled with sticky notes, phone messages, documents that have come in, some cases, very rare, lab results. So now what we've done is trying to automate that as much as possible and have access right from my dashboard. My incomplete notes is really convenient for the doctor, because in some cases you may have a physician that does not complete their notes at the point of encounter, wants to go back later. So now they're all conveniently located on their dashboard. Today in the paper world, you'll find physicians that are, in some cases, piling paper charts in their car. Well, they really don't have to do that any longer, because they can just take their laptop home and everything in terms of their notes is located right on their dashboard. Your nurse goes in, starts the note for you, to documenting the chief complaint, maybe updating the history and med list. The doctor is going to pick up where he or she's left off, and that's going to happen right on the incomplete note section. And this is screen 1 of 2 that we're working in. Now, as a physician, maybe I want to review some information before I go into the exam room. Maybe no different than what I'm doing today in the paper world. I want to look at maybe some of my past one-page summaries that I've done for this patient, and I can do that just by doing that right from my dashboard. Will pop up a summary for Danny Dalton. Now, I've programmed my screen to put my active problems at the top, current medication, and then my visit notes. So a physician can customize how they look at information, and obviously each doctor is different, so they can look at however they like. So I have a visit note here on 3/15/2010. It shows how I documented the specific note. If I want to go back into the next one right behind it, they do list by reverse chronological order, so I've got my other one here on March the 11th, 2010, and how I documented that note. So that's just the way. It doesn't take you any more time than you going through a paper chart, right? You're pulling back a tab, you're having to scan real quickly. I'm doing the same thing here, but electronically. I'll go back to the top. Now we'll move Danny to an exam room and start a note. Now this is screen 2 of 2. Remember I said really 2 screens primarily that the physician would have to work in. So by default, I can create the default that goes right to my chief complaint, and I can document what the problem is. And maybe we're just going to say that it's ankle pain today. I can document multiple chief complaints within the same note. I'll explain templates here in a second. Don't have to launch a template for each chief complaint. You know, if you were down at the end of the plan tab and the patient said, I forgot to tell you, I've been having some upper back pain, you would just go back to your chief complaint and document the new problem that patient is giving you. Here's what we're talking about most frequently used when we're talking about adaptive learning, ease of navigation. When you start using those symptom lists that you see on the left-hand side, I've got them in different categories. As I start using them, it will build my most frequently used list. In fact, the first day that you're using it, you're already going to have a list that's been generated. Now, most of you might say, hey, whoopee, Kevin, so how does that help me? Well, it reduces my number of clicks, and it eases my navigation because that's where it's defaulting to. It's a quick list that I can look at, just like I demonstrated here. I went to ankle pain and upper back pain. This little note section is applicable throughout all the tabs up at the top. That's just your free text note or your subjective text box if you'd like. You have a couple different ways that you can get information in there. You can type. You can use drag and naturally speaking, which is actually pretty proficient. If I wanted to handwrite in my little box here, our application is written for a tablet PC. Oops, much coffee this morning. We'll convert my little handwritten note into text. It's great if you want to jot down a couple words. If you want to do sentences, I really recommend using Dragon. Or you can actually build a database of notes. I call them predefined text. Maybe it's something that you say over and over again. You can pull from there. So we'll go to our HPI. Now, based on the chief complaints that I've selected, it will load the appropriate HPI for me. So I wanted to get back to what I said about templates. This is not a template-based system. We don't have to create templates for each chief complaint for each doctor. Greatly reduces the implementation time because it will come preloaded with ortho-specific content or whatever specialties that you have. The benefit is I can use what is provided, don't have to build anything, but if I want to customize, for example, you'll see these blue letters here, or these words, which means those are just hyperlinks. So if I wanted to add a description to my list here, just have to select quality, view. Let's say I want to put in this word. I just added that description on the fly. You probably blinked and it was there, but not that fast. But my point being is, you didn't see I didn't have to navigate out of my second screen. I am not technical by any means, so you notice I didn't have to have a degree in programming. It wasn't complex. It was very simple to do. That is the flexibility of the MyWay application in terms of how you can customize. If you are reviewing other EMRs, it won't hurt my feelings. Challenge them. Say, look, show me how you would customize content and have them do it right on the fly. If you can find a system that's better or faster than what I just showed you there, maybe you can consider that application into the running. But very simple to do in our application. So he's got some ankle pain. What's the location? It's on his left ankle. Seems to be constant, and there's some swelling that's involved. To limit his activity, maybe moderately. Significant trigger, let's say mechanism of injury. Maybe it was a sports injury. So I can come in here and document as much detail as I can or I want within the application. Are there any alleviating factors? Maybe some medication. He's taking some ibuprofen. Now, I want to point out here is whatever, depending on your workflow, some doctors will come in here and only do 2 or 3 tabs, and the nurse is doing the rest. So really, whatever workflow you're doing today can be emulated pretty much within the MyWay application. The history tab is a good example. Most doctors don't do this, but they do review it with the patient. So maybe the nurse is updating it, and she can add or he can add, any additional medical problems, or if they had surgeries that were outside this specific clinic, that all can be documented. And all you really have to do is select, I've reviewed the medical history with this patient, and it does show up in the one-page summaries. So no changes in surgeries. I was allergic to any medications, no known allergies at this time. And we've got our medication history here, and the nurse can document patient-reported meds. Well, we can actually simplify that process by what is called retrieve history. Now, with the patient's consent, that retrieve history will go out and look at all the active medications that patient is taking, although they weren't prescribed by you. They will only pick up medications that were written through their insurance company. Currently, it is not picking up prescriptions that were written by or paid for by cash. It's not an Allscripts issue. That's really a pharmacy-related issue and letting us get to that data. So, for example, especially in orthopedics, you've got a person that's doctor hopping in town and going out and getting several medications for pain medications. This would have, if they've gone through their insurance company, would have actually pulled in those active medications. I think that's pretty powerful. So my review of systems, really can select all here and then come in and just say that maybe there's some stiffness and swelling. I can go into each one of these categories. Constitutional, maybe if he's got a little bit of fatigue. Again, this list is customizable. I can put it in alphabetical order. I can add defaults to yes or no or non-applicable. So you do have, again, flexibility of customizing how you would like to see that list. Physical exam. I've selected my physical exam type. If you wanted to do a comprehensive, you can do select all. It would create that whole list as normal, and you can document by exception. In most cases, maybe ortho doctors like to just go to that specific area. So if we go into the ankle, maybe there's some swelling, and it's tender. What's the stability? maybe it's normal, or if I wanted to document an abnormal result, I can do also. So again, as much detail as you want, you just document by exception. So we go to our diagnosis codes. Now, I don't know if his ankle's broken or if it just is a sprain, so what I want to do is I want to come over here and I'm going to select an x-ray of his foot. Maybe that comes back after the x-ray. I examine the x-ray and say it's not broken. Then I go back and I'm going to select my diagnosis code. My diagnosis codes are whatever I'm using today, so really nothing has to change. Whatever you're using on your super bill or encounter ticket can be listed here, and as you can see, I can categorize them in specific areas. Again, the adaptive learning kicks in because it defaulted to my most frequently used. That list that you see right there before you was generated based on the number of times that I've used those diagnosis codes. Excuse me. So sprain of ankle, joint pain ankle, sprain of shoulder, those are all my most used, and then that list is just created by the number of times that I've used those specific diagnoses. So maybe I'm just going to document that it's a sprain. Now what we have here is a list, what is called diagnosis associations. For sprained ankle, I may do a variety of those items that you see on the left-hand side. Basically, what that provides for me is it reduces the number of clicks. I'm going to demonstrate that in a moment, because I can finish my note here, because I've done everything, or I've listed everything that I would do all the way to the plan. So although his ankle isn't broken, I am going to give him some Vicodin. And I'll give him some muscle relaxers. I've already did an x-ray of his foot, and I want him to come back in 2 weeks. I'm going to restrict his exercise until further notice, until I see him 2 weeks. I've basically completed my note for this patient. I can save it and go on to the next patient in my queue. I don't have to finish the tabs up at the top next to diagnosis. I will explain the rest of these and how these work. This is our prescription writer, so that it will list, like it did in history, the active meds. Anything that's in italics means based on the prescription that was written, they should no longer be taking that medication. This is a true e-prescribing solution, which all the prescriptions will go electronically, as well as the refill requests from the pharmacy will come back electronically. You can actually route those back to someone's dashboard as a message indicating that there's a refill request coming in for a pharmacy. This will do drug to drug, drug to allergy, duplicate therapy checking. You guys might want to do a search today about, because with orthodox, I always get the most common question I get is, what about class 2? And you're right, class 2 always have to be printed out. Some states it's a specific type of piece of paper or prescription pad, and the doctor has to sign it. But however, there is good news. I believe that our government, or the DEA, is about to approve the guidelines for sending electronic prescriptions for class 2. I think that's huge. It just eliminates the chance of any abuse with prescriptions in terms of pain meds. And you can do a search on that. That was actually, I got that notification over the weekend. So it didn't say a specific time frame. It just said they were about to, I think, allow that to happen. So if I want to write a prescription, my adaptive learning kicks in. We'll keep a list as I write medications. Keep my own little list nice and neat there. I can pull from there. So for example, I'm just going to do, for demonstration purposes, select Celebrex. This is my actual prescription pad, so I use my dosing suggestion, and it lists everything that medication could be written for in its appropriate SIG. preloads my menu for me. I just give the number of days and if there's any refills. There's my electronic pharmacy. The patient says, oh, you know, I don't want you to send it to anywhere in Arkansas. Well, what pharmacy would you like us to send it to? Comes up here, and I can pull up by name, by address of the following search criteria and find a pharmacy that's convenient for them. And this little SureScripts here just means that this pharmacy takes electronic e-prescribing. SP is my CPT codes, my money tab. So just like my diagnosis codes, I can categorize my CPT codes. It will start building my most frequently used list. So I can pull from there. It will also keep, this will do it also in the diagnosis tab. It will also keep a history of the CPTs that I've used for that patient. You know, maybe I've got a patient that's got a chronic back problem and I always do an x-ray at a certain point in time. It's always going to keep that list. My SO, if you're doing, it does have interfaces with Quest and LabCorp. If you happen to do labs, if you need to order an MRI or a CT scan, you can do that and generate that order for that patient and print that out at the point of checkout and send them to a specific facility. We go to our plan. I really don't have to do much here in this tab because, remember, I already did that in my diagnosis. I've got my follow-up visit. I'm restricting his exercise until further notice. You see on the right and left-hand side of your screen, those are called sliders. They just allow me quick access to information or functions without having to navigate or open another window. I don't even have to click it. I can just really put my cursor over and out pops the window. If I want to hand out some educational forms, let's just say sprain ankle exercises. It does come with a database of instructions or patient instructions, or you can use your own if you'd like. If you want to document on some images, and I wanted to indicate that there was some swelling somewhere using my stylus again, I can document. I do want to say that we can import X-ray images if you need to. Those are really just pulling from a folder or a file from a server somewhere. So if you've got like a PAC system and you want to bring that image in directly in, you can do that. It won't do it automatically. You would have to point to that specific file and you can attach it to a patient's chart. Last part here is the E&M code calculator. Now, I could have done this in my diagnosis association if I know, for example, when I'm looking at a sprained ankle, it always comes out at a specific billing code. I could have selected that in my diagnosis tab section. If you're doing a comprehensive exam, not sure where you're at, you can come to here, and this will just guide you, saying either based on documentation or time, what the appropriate coding level is. And right now, it's saying that it's coming out as a 212, and it's calculating based on the number of points that you've documented in the appropriate categories. So we'll say that it's straightforward. We'll accept what the computer has generated. I want to show you what the one-page summary looks like. Kind of showed you that when we were we were viewing information, previous notes before going into the exam room. So this is a one-page summary that was generated today based on our documentation. So we're ready to close our note out for today. Generates my super bill. We'll mark it complete for this demonstration. You wanted to keep it incomplete and go back later, just select that. It's going to show up on your dashboard. Right below that, if you have somebody seeing patients on your behalf, you can ask them to have them forward it to you so they can co-sign and approve. Revert to discharge. Shows an account balance. I could have collected payment here on the back end. I could have done it at the front. I can print out the following items if need be, if the patient wants those, and I can have my staff look at my free schedule 2 weeks from today and schedule up that requested follow-up. Patient's been discharged. I go to the next one in my queue. So let's do a quick review. Showed you two screens that we navigated into today. Dashboard, where my appointments are listed, all my messages are there, and my incomplete notes if I have some. My second screen is where myself and my nurse are going to document the encounter. Nurse is going to go in, do the chief complaint, maybe update the history in the med list. I'm going to walk in, maybe do the HPI and the rest of the note. I showed you the ease of customization where I added a description very quickly on the fly. The ease of navigation goes back to using really primarily my two screens. Adaptive learning, which was applicable like in my chief complaint and my diagnosis, my CPT and my lab orders. As I start using items or descriptions in those lists, it's going to default to my most frequently used. That eases my navigation, speeds up my documentation, and actually reduces the number of clicks so I don't really have to go looking for things. You will notice that I can document multiple chief complaints within the same note. I don't have to launch a template and open another window for each chief complaint that I have. I can do that right within my second screen. As promised, it took about 30 minutes of your time, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute your phones.
All participants in your conference are now unmuted.
Open microphone.
I have a question. This is Kathy.
Yes, Kathy.
How would you edit that encounter if he wanted to make the visit higher, like a 99213?
Well, if he's already closed the note out and made the super, well, he can go back. He'd have to go back to his specific note. Not this screen. That's today's note right here.
I'm on a conference call for this job. I'm on a conference call with this job.
He'd have to come in right here and change it either in his SP right here, and he can document office visit and change the code.
Okay.
Or he can go back and let the biller know, send a message to the biller. He can modify the super bill.
Okay.
A couple different ways to do that.
All right.
Wow, quiet for a Monday.
Yeah.
Okay.
It looks pretty easy to me. You know, it's not complicated for sure.
No, I'm not being biased. I don't believe I've seen a lot of other EMRs that are they don't seem to be easy to navigate, and you do have multiple screens open up. I look at any system and say, just use what you use today. I mean, there's so much functionality, people think they have to do everything. I mean,
right.
As individuals, when you look at Microsoft Word, how many of us use 90% of it? Probably not. We probably use about 20% of the abilities. But the functions are there if you need them. Well, folks, thanks for your time today. Have a wonderful day and a good rest of the week. And if any of you need that 800 number back on the screen to reach out directly to a Allscripts or one of our resellers, let me know. I'll put that back up on the screen.
I have one question. It's Kathy again.
Yes.
Do you import your own transcription in there?
You can import it. That would just be really just importing a document. But the system, go back here and open an existing note. I don't show it too often, but you can come in here and dictate directly into the system and then send that to a transcriptionist to transcribe.
Okay. All right.
Great.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.